President Donald Trump recently created a task force that put a number of North Carolina members on it, involving the creation, or I should say potential changes to FEMA. One member of that committee is Congressman Tim Moore, who joins us now. Congressman, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ruben. Great to be with you.
And you. This committee or task force, not as sure on the official name here, but you're a member of it. Congresswoman Virginia Foxx is on it. Congressman Chuck Edwards and Republican National Committee Chairman Michael Whatley are all part of this. I'm curious, he sort of announced it on his trip down to Western NC. You were on that trip. Were you made aware before he announced it? And kind of tell me your hopes with the committee.
Well, I'm certainly honored in the confidence of the President to be a part of a four-member committee to oversee this under the White House. And it was something really that happened on the flight down on Air Force One. We had the opportunity to share with the President a lot of the problems that are happening on the ground. And if you look at what's happened, a lot of it really comes from a lot of the policies that really started sort of with the bureaucracy of FEMA. Really not the people on the ground who are actually trying to do the work, but so many of the mandates where they're held up by bureaucracy. And so he was very responsive to a lot of the things that we reported, that all of us reported back to him, and I think he's serious about wanting to get on it. So the fact that I'm on this committee is a huge honor, but it's a big task.
Timeline for this is that the committee will be no more than a year.
Right.
What's sort of the process for making this all happen? What do you expect the kind of end result to be?
Well, I think we're going to look at the money that has already been appropriated, the roughly $100 billion that was appropriated previously, making sure those dollars get where they need to go, trying to find ways to make sure there isn't waste, fraud, or abuse, that there aren't, whether it's DEI policies or whatever it is, that there aren't things in the way keeping these dollars from getting to North Carolinians who need this assistance. So I'll give you an example of something, Ruben. I talk to a lot of town and county governments who talk about the amount of red tape they have to jump through just to get permits, just to get the reimbursement. We need to cut that out because there are people right now who are trying desperately to rebuild their businesses, rebuild their homes, and we don't need to just have unnecessary burdens in place. So those are some things that we're tackling immediately off the jump. Would
you like to see some of those local leaders on this task force and make it a bipartisan task force as well?
Absolutely. I think those of us who were appointed, of course, were Republican, but we're the Congress members from the affected part of the state that had all of this damage. So that's why the three of us who were members of Congress were, of course, appointed. But when it comes to dealing with the governor's office, we're dealing with the legislature, absolutely. I think we need to approach it in a way to just simply get things done.
During his visit to Western North Carolina, the president was not only critical of FEMA, but seemed to imply that he wouldn't mind getting rid of FEMA and putting the pressure on the states, or putting the attention on the states. I want to play you that soundbite from him talking about that.
FEMA just hasn't done the job, and we're looking at the whole concept of FEMA. I like, frankly, the concept when North Carolina gets hit, the governor takes care of it. When Florida gets hit, the governor takes care of it, meaning the state takes care of it.
Do you believe FEMA should be eliminated?
Well, of course, I was with him when he had this statement, and we talked about it on Air Force One before we landed. And I think we find a way, first of all, to make sure that FEMA does what it's supposed to do. But if FEMA is being burdened by bureaucracy and unwilling to get the job done, absolutely. We need to get the dollars where it's going to provide that aid. And at the end of the day, it's taking care of folks on the ground. You couldn't just get rid of it and say, here's the money, states. The states would have to have some time to stand up the operations necessary to effectively deliver the aid.
Yeah, I want to clarify that. So was it your understanding that the states would still get money? They wouldn't be left on their own to take care of the difference, right? Okay, so then if the states were doing all of this, they assumably would have to hire hundreds, if not thousands, of permanent workers, wouldn't they, in sort of taking the place of FEMA?
Well, I don't know the answer right off. I don't think it would have to be that many, but part of the problem is that FEMA is just so burdened by a bureaucracy that makes it slow. And we don't need folks in Washington, D.C., frankly, in a bureaucracy deciding where things need to be delivered in North Carolina. We know that back home. And you talk to emergency services directors, you talk to your county leaders, your city leaders in the affected areas, they know what the needs are. They know, they know these families that are impacted. And so at the end of the day, it's about getting those dollars delivered there. And whether that's through FEMA or whether that's through the states, I really don't care as long as we get the funds there and we take care of folks.
A hard pivot and talk about the tariffs.
Yes.
We're recording this early afternoon, so I want to be clear that there could be changes when this airs at 7. But as of now, it looks like between Mexico and the U.S., those tariffs have taken a pause for a month. But the tariffs, as of now, are still in place for Canada. Canada is responding. You're on board with these tariffs, correct? Trump ran on these tariffs. How patient, though, do you think Americans are going to be when their meat prices go up, when their grain prices go up, and car prices go up?
Well, Americans are already seeing record inflation because of 4 years of Joe Biden and because of seeing what's happened when you allow the United States to get put in a weakened position on the international stage. This is the first step to get us out of that hole. And frankly, our countries bordering us right now need to do the right thing and help us when it comes to controlling illegal immigration, the flow of drugs, the flow of human trafficking. This is a serious issue. And I applaud the president using every tool in his toolbox to make this happen. I mean, look at, for example, Panama with the canal. We probably should have never given the Panama Canal away in the first place. But the fact that for 4 years under Joe Biden, he allowed China to exert more and more influence right here in the Western Hemisphere by having control over that. Enough's enough, and I applaud the president in taking a strong stand for our nation, both domestically and internationally.
Do you worry, though, when you watch the stock market tumble as it did today and what other, more increases on top of what the inflation already may be?
So, I mean, you always have to be mindful of that, but I think we have to play a long game on this. We can't keep doing what we're doing. If you look at so many of our problems right now, a lot of it is tied to illegal immigration, whether it's abuse of the public welfare system, whether it's crime, whether it's drugs. We've got to get a handle on it. And so for far too long, too many other countries have felt like they can just dump folks here that they don't want here at our country, and that's not right.
Congressman Tim Moore, appreciate you coming in.
Good to be with you, sir.